They're imaginary. And I was like, oh man, that's kind of crazy.
But they don't talk back.
This is true.
Valid point.
Well, I don't know. Did my buddy talk back?
No, he crazy answer.
Kenny Ross would talk back.
I mean, do these virtual friends come up with their own things to say from the AI? mean,
So
you're
I,
sort
I
of coming up with ideas that's already in your mind.
okay, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. One of the things was the democratization of resources. One of the things adjacent to this, I'm not saying this is exactly what they're saying, but should I be able to go get and who we actually had this as the news, and I can't remember if it was Instagram or someone had the AI therapist. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
That come up? And one of the arguments that I find fascinating is like, okay, well, what if I'm too embarrassed to go to a therapist? What if I don't want my wife to know that I'm going to a therapist? What if I don't want my job to know because it may affect the way people look at me go to a therapist? Does that mean you would recommend cutting off all my access to a resource that I now could have that could help me because you're scared?
That was the VP of marketing for Moderna that has 4 different AI therapists,
Mm.
which is why I'll never take another job. She's in charge of HR.
So I think these things they get real tricky. It's very interesting. FDA unveils generative AI tool ELSA ahead of schedule. U.S. Food and Drug Administration has launched a generative AI tool ELSA ahead of its planned June 30th release, designed to enhance efficiency within the agency. ELSA assists employees in various tasks, including scientific reviews and operational functions. So I won't continue to read all of that, but essentially it's just collecting all this data, reading all these reports, all the data inputs, as we all know that we're using AI to do, and then just producing summaries and producing tools to help them out a little bit better. And I think this is Kai, I don't know exactly how he produces things. I know he uses AI to put lots of stuff together. And by the way, Kai did all this, just in case anybody wanted to give me credit for it. But he scrapes the web in some way and pieces all this together. And it certainly seems like there's a theme here on what it happened to give us this week. But yeah, I think we've covered all that. Anybody have anything to add? That it's at the government level. Does that make a difference to anybody?
It's about time.
I used to work with medical AI, and we had the FDA come in and investigate our place of business all the time. I mean, we had a very friendly relationship, so it just makes me smile that they're using
They
AI.
caught up. AI tool to cut food waste by 1.5 million meals. Nestle is participating in a groundbreaking trial of AI tool designed to reduce food waste across the U.S. The innovative technology has already achieved an impressive 87% reduction in edible food waste during the initial 2-week trial at one of Nestle's factories. So what I found interesting about this is all the AI, and I was talking to someone in here, and I was saying, yeah, back when AI was real instead of this fake stuff we have now, this is just machine learning. I mean, this isn't the new fancy cool large language models that we have and agentic and all that stuff. This is the old good core, deep think and stuff like that. So to me, I'm fascinated by this because our company's doing this already and it hits the news because now AI is the big sexy thing, or did this get finally someone said, okay, let's fund this because AI is the new thing? I'm like, well, that's been here for 20 years. We could have been doing this before. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm just speculating on the article. XAI partners with Telegram, 300 million for Grok integration. Telegram has announced a significant partnership with Elon Musk's AI company, XAI, to integrate a Grok chatbot into its platform. So, I mean, I hear this all the time when we have customers that say, will you go to our vendor and ask them if they can do an integration between this and this? And they say, sure, if you want to pay for it, give us $100,000 and we'll knock that right out. Otherwise, it goes on the list and whoever asks the most gets it. So, I mean, I think it's great that we're, getting integration and Telegram is a good product, but it seems like this is something that's just inevitable. Some Dead Sea Scrolls are older than researchers thought, AI analysis suggests. A new AI analysis suggests that some Dead Sea Scrolls are centuries older than previously believed. By examining handwriting styles, researchers found a certain scroll may date back to the 3rd century BCE rather than the 1st or 2nd century BCE as earlier thought. This finding could reshape our understanding of the origins and development of the ancient text and the communities that produced them. That's kind of out there. It's kind of weird. I mean, handwriting analysis has been done for a long time. It's just we don't have the resources to do it. You know, if you have to have humans do this analysis, it's just not going to be as fast or as accurate. But I actually am curious about some of these, and I'm interested to hear anybody else to say is, do you predict anything that we think we know now, that when we have enough data and we have enough horsepower and enough, the analytical tools being able to, and I know there's a lot of AI guys in here that can possibly help me out with how the technologies will work, but we can find these corollaries that we don't know now. Is there anything anybody can think about that could possibly be well, we thought this was the real thing, but come to find out now the data says this?
One of the things that I've got a lot of history and archaeology in Mesoamerica, and one of the things is that we have an inordinate amount of imagery of Mayan text and whatnot that we can't translate because we don't have the translators. And all we got to do is just set it up and start running through AI, and we're going to start getting, because the Mayan and the Toltec and all those, they were huge civilizations and incredibly complex, and we have no idea what's going to come out of that, especially when we start thinking about the math and cosmology and whatnot. So that's a huge one that AI is going to really pop.
It's fascinating.
Sorry, just a slightly off topic, just regarding the Dead Sea Scrolls. Actually, for a long time, not everyone had access to them because various archaeologists kept them to themselves, and then eventually they got them out into the public. So if we do that with similar sort of situations, we will have a lot more information. But there's obviously political and other factors weighing in on these things.
I've been to the Dead Sea Scroll Museum, and there's a fascinating history on all of that. But you're absolutely right. The access to that, it's almost like the access to anything else. If you don't have the scanners or the people to translate it and do it, then you're just not going to get it done. There's just not people to fund it. But if you can have AI take away all that, then it makes that easier.
You were asking about the questions to ask. I think like Sam Altman maybe, or one of the people that are in charge, said like AI will help us figure out the questions that we don't even know to ask. So you asked the question, I was like, I'm not really sure what that question is. Apparently AI may be able to help us discover what those questions are that we should even be asking, and then figure them out, which is pretty mind-blowing to me.
I agree. I'm often fascinated by the things that I am ignorant of to even ask. So these are at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and show these because I don't want to put a break in showing off Kai's work. So I assume a lot of people are here by way of LinkedIn or you were already coming, but Kai started quite a few days out. He asked me about 2-3 weeks ago if I would do this, and I was like, man, I'm honored, I'm thrilled, I'm super excited. And then about 4 or 5 days before this, he started pushing out these AI generated things, and I was like, dude, you got to calm down. This is I don't know how to live up to the standards you're setting for me. So there's me as a Lego man. What concerns me here is that I'm a giant, and all of you people are tiny. I don't know what to do with that. And then Doc Brown. So if you didn't see these, you certainly should go back and read them. It was a really good. What he had AI produce it. All right. So I'm gonna stand here for the slide presentation. I'm gonna go over there to do the demo side, and this will all make sense. Hopefully here just a little bit. So Google Workspace, Gemini integration. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on the content. What I wanted to make sure I did was if I'm putting this together, I wanted to have this resource. So I wanted to be complete. So each one of these is a slide, so we'll just move right along. Google Workspace, a unified ecosystem for seamless collaboration. Core concepts: one environment, one login, one streamlined experience. I'm going to repeat myself quite a bit on these first handful of slides. If anybody wants to interrupt me, please do. Ask questions. I'm more than happy to pause because I will take over and not take a breath if you allow me to. So if you don't know already, what my point of this is, I think Kai put out just a little bit, is this really is a presentation on Google Workspace more than it is on AI. What my goal here is to use Google Workspace to show an ecosystem, a single sign-on, a secure environment, to be thinking about that, because I think a lot of times people say, oh, well, my data's secure. I'm in the IT profession. There's a lot of lip service to that. There's a lot of people in this room that are probably guilty of moving data around. I almost did it 2 weeks ago, where I was moving data around. I needed to convert a file from one to another, and it had PII in it, it had client information in it, it was just my calendar, and I was like, oh, I need to convert it from this to this, and I almost uploaded a website. It was a reputable website, and it's a HTTPS connection. I know how the internet works. It's a secure connection. But that doesn't tell me what that server is going to do with my data. And it doesn't tell me that they're not going to do something with the data at all. Now, I can hope they're reputable. I can hope that they delete it after time. And I could probably go and read their EULA, and it probably will. But I don't know that. I use that to say one environment, one login, one streamlined experience. I'm not going from my email to ChatGPT. I'm not going from this file that I got off of the work server or the OneDrive or wherever and taking it over to Claude. We're just moving data around, and we're just putting it in places that we just don't think about. So the core that I want you to think about from the base is it secure, and do I own the data? Because if you have a Gmail account, 100% of this stuff is available to you. You can do everything I'm showing you for free, but if it's not a Google Workspace, you don't own the data. Google owns the data if it's in Gmail, and when we set up our customers for Google Workspace, and you can do the same, you do not need me to do this, just go to Google and buy it. Then you own the data. And that's what it says in the licenses. When you click, I agree to these terms, Google actually says we'll never share your data, we'll never use your data in AI training, and we'll never do anything other than leave your data in your container. It just sits on our servers. A single cohesive ecosystem. We will delve into how Google Workspace functions as a singular environment, bringing together all the essential productivity and collaboration tools. So I'll dwell on that for a second, although we're going to see all that. Essentially, again, what I want to do is really expose all of you to, here are the tools that Google has in its ecosystem. What I also hope you get away from it is that you can go do this in other ecosystems. Just be thinking about your ecosystem. So we try our hardest to be agnostic as we probably possibly can in our IT company, and we instill this as part of our culture, where when people say, oh, I'm an Apple guy, instead of saying, oh, I hate Apple, I'm a PC guy, it's a computer. So these are just platforms that we use. I'm going to focus on Google to show what it can do. What I hope you do is go back to your platform and say, can I do all of these things in my platform, or how much of it can I get into one ecosystem? Next, the power of single sign-on. Discover the efficiency and security of a single logon for access to the entire suite of Google Workspace. As I said on these first couple of slides, I'm going to repeat myself quite a bit because I want to emphasize this. With that single sign-on, it's tied to michael@asklocalit.com, which is a Google Workspace domain. Anything you see me do here today will be tied to that. That means that all of that data never leaves the ecosystem of Google, and it never leaves my ownership. It's not going anywhere. No one else can see it. No one else can have access to it. So over here, this presentation explores the power of the integrated Google Workspace ecosystem. Our focus is on the streamlined workflow and data management benefits of a single unified platform, which again, I repeat myself. Your data, your control. The key principle of Google Workspace is that you own and control your data. All work is automatically saved within your secure Google Workspace environment. This one's an interesting that I want to touch on. This is kind of getting into the weeds, and I know that this room can handle it. But when we say Google Workspace, you're going to see, if you look at it, you go, wait a minute, I didn't see that go to Google Drive. I didn't see that. Looks like he had to move it from here to here, which I do often, but it is all in Google Drive. That's where Google keeps 100% of your data is in Google Drive. It just may not be accessible every single way that you're dealing with that data. Integrated, not isolated. This presentation will showcase the native integration of tools within Google Workspace designed to enhance productivity and streamline workflows. One of the reasons that this bullet is here is because there's a couple of tools I want to show you that is not in the core of Google Workspace. So I'm certain everyone here is familiar with either being on the receiving end, or at least the brunt of the joke that Google is notorious for is they'll make a product, everyone will fall in love with it, and then they make the product sunset. It goes away. Very frustrating. So when we say Google Workspace, what you're going to see in one case is what's called Google Labs has Google AI Studio, which is a ridiculously powerful tool and is well beyond what its capacities are well beyond what I'm going to use it for, what I'm using it for, and what I'm going to show you guys. But it's not part of Google's Workspace, what they call their core apps. And so if you do want to say, hey, I'm all in, I want to go for this, then I would ask you to be aware, but I'd also ask you to be aware of any ecosystem you're in. If it's not part of their core apps that you're paying for, just keep that in to be cautious as a business owner or someone who's going to be using a product for a long time. So please note, this presentation is not a comparative analysis of Google's AI capabilities such as Gemini versus other AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude. Instead, our focus is on the fundamental strengths of Google Workspace platform as a unified and secure environment for your work. Now, I don't want y'all to think that I'm just going to harp on this and not show us some fun AI. The rest of this is just all AI. I just wanted to make sure I was setting this foundation. And if anyone has a question in this day, does ChatGPT, ChatGPT does this, does Google do it like that? Bring those up. I'm not saying that we can't talk about other AI. I'm just saying that that's not the core of what this is me comparing all these tools together. So here's where I hope you start paying attention and seeing what the different tools are. And I'll even try to show you what's going on. So if everyone sees this red stripe on my phone, that's my Google Recorder going in the background. I started it 31 minutes and 18 seconds ago. I think y'all can see it well enough that it's transcribing in real time. So one of the things that, and I can save that at any time. I can also look at the audio just to see how that audio feedback is given to me. And this is just uploading, well, it's actually staying on the phone directly, but it's secure to my login. And then when I hit a Wi-Fi that I trust, it'll upload it to the Recorder site. So Recorder has a companion. This is the app that's on my phone, which is only available on a Pixel phone, or excuse me, only available on an Android phone. I'm sorry, y'all, but that's why I want to say we're focusing on this ecosystem. I hope you can extrapolate that to other ecosystems. So these are companions. So I can do almost everything I need to from the app, but if I want to, and we will look at this in a moment, I can go over and manage all that information. So I can go look at it, it auto labels things, but I can change labels, I can download things, I can move things around. I use it a lot for if I sit down, let's say I'm gonna sit down with Steven, I was like, hey, I'm gonna record this, and he already knows I'm gonna record everything, because it's Alabama, and I don't have to ask your permission. I get to do what I want. That's why I love Alabama. At least one of the reasons. But what I do, just to be complete with that thought, is I do like to say, hey, I'm going to record this meeting, just want to let you know. I don't usually ask. I want to make them do the extra effort of saying, no, I don't want you to. Haven't had it happen yet. And then what I try to do is give them the benefit of that is, and when I do, 100% of the time, I'm going to put this in our folder, whether it be a vendor or whether it be a customer or whether it be internal, and I say, and I'll send you a summary. And so that's the point of me showing you this is collecting of the data. So everything here is just collecting of data. Now AI is being used here, AI is being used here and here and here, but right now I just want to emphasize the collection of the data. Now I'm going to break out of here, again for completeness.
Hey Michael.
Yes.
Do you know if Claude integrates with that?
I do not know.
Okay. That was something that Maru brought up. He's got a little watch that's like Claude that does the same thing as the Google recording. So that might be something for us iPhone users that are, stuck in the past.
Well, there's a voice recorder on your iPhone,
But does it do the transcribing?
it doesn't do the transcribing, but you can send it to Notebook LM and it'll transcribe it for you. Then you can ask any question. What are the dew points in the conversation? What do I have to do according to the conversation I had? You can just record the meeting and pay attention to the client instead of yourself or whatever.
10 points iPhone.
Yeah, that's a great point is however you're recording it, get the audio.
Yeah.
Other AI tools will do the transcribing. Notebook LM will do it. AI Studio will do it. I don't know if Gemini does it yet, but fundamentally it's all Gemini on the back end. All I wanted to show here is that I'm recording this meeting in Google Meet. And what it's doing in different ways is it's recording and I'll start taking notes. So it's recording the audio, it's transcribing, and it's giving me a summary all at once. And then we'll look at this. This is just going to drop into my Google Drive later on. Okay, so that's Google Drive. And then Call Assist, I'm actually going to show you what it looks like on the back end. Is any other of the platforms anyone is using have a Call Assist? So you're in a call, you can hit record on that call? I think Pixel might be the only one that does it. It is specific to Pixel phones. And I don't know why that is right now. I don't know why no one else is doing it. And I will show you in a moment what that looks like. up on the screen. I took some screenshots yesterday to make sure that I had that. But to recap this slide, and the whole point of it is just to emphasize the tools. We've got a recorder on the app that's transcribing in real time. We've got the recorder companion site, which allows me to move that data around without any real effort. Google Meet, which I can get multiple ways of getting in, and it's the transcription that's gold. That's what the AI is using. It's not the voice, it's the words. And then Call Assist, which lets you record a phone call. Now that one does announce itself. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Michael, the only thing I could think of that's similar to Call Assist is if you use Zoom.
Okay.
So Zoom's got a Office Business Suite, and you know, if you video or audio, you can also record that.
But what about that phone call?
Well, if you're using the Zoom phone.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So they have a unified
So they're
communication.
call bridge.
There are apps on an iPhone that'll allow you to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I use Otter AI and just turn
Otter.
it on the phone and it records everything what you say.
So it doesn't announce when you do that. Is that correct?
No,
On
I
Otter?
turn it on and it just.
Yeah, that's interesting that they allow them to do that.
Otter won't join every meeting. You have to invite it, and it has to be allowed because some platforms won't allow Otter.
But I think he said something different. You're saying.
If somebody calls me, I can.
Oh, when somebody calls you,
Yep.
okay.
I'm working with, I just turn it on and record it as we're speaking in the conversation.
I haven't tried it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, if people are doing that, then I'll say one of the downsides of that is you're both sides of that conversation. Or if it tries to isolate that at speaker one, speaker two, obviously if you're in that Zoom meeting, you're in that Otter real meeting, or what's the other one that I see going around? Firefly, is that one that's going around a lot? And there's a whole bunch of them. But the problem that I run into is it doesn't keep your speakers lined up. So what I generally have to do is I'll go into a notepad or go into a Google Doc or something, and I'm going to find and replace. It just depends on what you're going to do with this data. Because like I said, a lot of times I'm trying to get this data either over to one of my techs so that they're empowered with all this conversation I just had. I'm getting over to my sales department, so I'm empowering them. But if it just says speaker one said this and speaker two said this, the AI is pretty damn good. It can pick up on some context and figure out who I am. But I want to give you even more. I want to say, Michael and, Josh Brown had this conversation, and it just pulls that data out so much more robustly. But you've got to spend the time. Going back to what I said earlier, which is AI seems to be costing me time, but am I investing it in the future? And that is, if I go through and I tidy it up a little bit, then it does give me a little bit more return on investment. I'm not going to read through any of these slides. Again, the point here is actually just the top here, and to get the three pillars that I wanted to focus on here, but not to read each one of these things. This is for completeness. If you want the slide deck, I wanted to put together for the slide. So Google Workspace with Gemini, looking at three powerful tools with back-end integrations. The focus here is what I've said from the very beginning, is that back-end integration to Google Drive, and that I can pull from Google Drive and I can push to Google Drive. So we've got Gmail, again, at the Google Workspace level, Gemini, and Google AI Studio, which I will emphasize again, is not part of the core of Google's products. So they don't guarantee that it's ever going to work with any of their stuff. It always does, but that's just a disclaimer that I have to say. I'm clearly not reading any of this because it's a mess, and we probably will run out of time before I get to jump into Google Drive and do individual components, which is Google Docs, Slides, Google Vids, and Google Sheets. All right, time for some demo. But before we get to the demo, this is how Call Assist works on the Pixel phone. I just wanted this, again, a lot of this is just showing you guys for completeness, just to give you the platform and encourage you, if you're not using a Google product, find something that will do it. This is the beginning, this is the end. So I want to walk through this. I called my wife, and I did try to sanitize this a little bit because if it's streaming on the internet, at least I wanted to get a little bit out of here. So I called my wife, and then I have the Call Assist button right here. And then I hit the Call Assist, and it says, okay, I'm ready to transcribe. And I click that, and then it announces to the callers. It says, we are now transcribing. And then now I am transcribing, which you can see represented by the stop there. And then as we go forward, does my laser work on this? Does not. So then as we go forward, what I wanted to point out here is this little icon, which is the transcript. So that's that Gemini transcript button that goes through. You don't see it on any of my calls. That's that little icon. I know it's hard to see from there or from wherever you're sitting. And then if I click on that, then it draws me into the actual transcript. It was incredibly short. And she says, what there? And she seemed rude. She was not. That was a very sweet what. Notice that was not 11:17 a.m. That was 11:17 p.m. So my poor wife had to put up with me. So what this does, they've actually improved this a little bit. It was incredibly clunky, but what I can do here is I can hit share and I can just send it to my Gmail account and it'll go over there. I wish I could say that it just showed up somewhere in my Google Drive or my email. It doesn't. I do have to go through the clunkiness of sharing it. I can copy it and do other things with it. I can also share the audio, but as we've already discovered in this conversation, everybody knows the actual text is what's gold. And we already covered all that nonsense. All right. Now, here's a bit of a touchy thing. Give me a moment, because I knew this was going to have to happen. This is already bad enough for some people I know that would creep them out. Okay, so because I wanted, let me get rid of, those are just going to have to stay maybe not. There we go. Okay, so because I wanted to make this as robust as possible, Josh, we're just going to use that as part of the training. So I've given Gemini presentations one-to-one many times. When you're doing that or one-to-many, where it's 2 or 3 people in a room, it's just so hard to give all of this. As you guys know, I see already kind of nodding heads know what I'm talking about. Unless you have production data, it just loses so much value. The last time I did this on the internet, we do have a sandbox. I put everyone in sandbox. I just didn't like it. I just have to create so much data that's artificial. It's just no fun. So what I did do here was I've snoozed everything so you can't see it. This is basically just either internal to my company or to a vendor. I don't care if you see vendors that I'm talking to. So rest assured, there's nothing here that's customer facing that you're seeing. At least not that I know of. And if I see anything, I'll try to get it out of here as quick as possible. So if you're not familiar, this is the Google interface. We're not going to spend a lot of time in the Google interface because there's really not just a whole hell of a lot that I want to show you. But I will give you some of the things that are built into it and then start to emphasize the things that I use on a regular basis and what I find to be very productive. So Gemini, built into the interface, is already going to start giving me information. So it's like, here are the gems that I've got that I can work with, or I can go to an email and I can try to start figuring out information on it. Let me actually go to that and get it to pull out.
Are those gems exclusive just to email?
No.
They're every gem you've got?
They're global.
Okay.
So who is this email from? It should be in that context window. So this email is from Josh Brown. And Google does a pretty good job. I know that most everyone's tightened up on it, but it will give you that source. And if there are multiple emails, or if I wanted to go through, again, it gets a little bit difficult streaming on the internet. I can go through here and I can say, can you tell me about the M365, or rather, we have a customer that's moving from Google Workspace to M365. Can you give me the challenges that we're having in the last week on that? Then it's going to summarize all of that. It's going to give me about 6 bullet points, and it's going to pull out probably the 20 or 30 emails that we've got. And that's gold. I don't have to tell anybody how valuable that is, but I'm limited to what I can show you to respect the privacy of my customers. So, but there is an interactive element there with Gemini, but what I really like, and I think we'll just use Josh as the example. Yes, sir.
Question for you on that. So if you're not on the email chain, do you still have access to that data?
If it's,
so if one of your technicians is interfacing with your customer and they're encountering issues, does it still pull that and give you that in a summary?
you'd have to be in a group somewhere. It'd have to be in your inbox. If it's not in your inbox, it's not going to get to it. So Microsoft, if I could tug at that string a little bit, because I don't like the way that Microsoft does that, it approaches the root of your question, is that Microsoft is a little bit more permissive about they handle enterprise level email. So where as an admin or someone who you've given admin rights to, you can kind of do shared boxes and delegated really pretty permissively. Google doesn't support that. So you can do, there's no concept of a shared mailbox in Google Workspace at all. Doesn't exist the same way that Microsoft does. And delegation is pretty rough. You've got to jump through quite a bit of hoops for Google to delegate. If it were delegated, then I could, but all I'm going to do is be in their inbox, so it wouldn't be the same as what your question is. I do hope that they figure that out. What they haven't figured out yet, that I'm going to go ahead and tag while we're here, is what others are doing, and I hope AI is doing it. That's why I said it's integrated with Google Drive. I want to be able to just say, across my entire ecosystem, answer me these questions. And I know there's quite a few. Is it Glide is the AI company out there that's doing that at the enterprise level? I think someone was explaining that to me, where you can just basically point it at your SharePoint, point it at your Google Drive, point it at your data set, and Glide, thank you. So what I usually find that is very helpful, that I use all the time, is if I reply to Josh, the miscreant of this particular session, then what I don't find helpful are these recommendations that I can do. But what I generally do, and I would almost expect people in the room to do, is I write the majority of my emails, and then I have the AI help me out with it. So Josh, thank you for your bothering me during the demo. I hope you are proud of yourself. All right, and then it's already picked up some grammar. I'm going to ignore that. And then this is the tool that I would say, if you said, Michael, you get nothing else, what's the one tool you want from Gemini that you have in your Google Workspace, you strip it all the way away, is this little beautiful button right here, Refine My Message. And I always hit polish. Now, it's a feature that it will leave the original and give you the new. So I wanted to express my disappointment regarding, oh, well, you see, that seems right. And so I will copy it, I will insert that. And then again, a feature is it's allowing you to say, okay, what was it I said? Because I want to edit this more to my tone. I've actually talked to some people before the meeting, and they said, I want my tone to be there. I want to refine that a little bit more, but I like the majority of it. And then I'm going to just delete that out, and then I'll send it back to Josh. That probably has leveled up my email efficiency. I would say where other AI has taken my time because I'm getting my data so much more rich, this has given back. It's not less than an hour. I mean, and my emails are so much more robust during the day. I do try to get in, and sometimes I don't like it. Sometimes I'll kind of pick up on a tone of what something, Daniel, I think I was emailing you on a topic the other day, and I hit polish on an email, and it just sounded douchey. It was too much. I was like, no, we're buds. Yes, it was a professional email. It was on a professional topic, but it just went too far. I was like, my version was good enough. And so I left it with my own tone.
Can you use a gem to help create that?
You probably could.
Because you could train gem on your tone.
You can. So Google is getting better at memory, and gems are relatively new. And I'll be straightforward, is because I was using AI Studio so efficiently before Gemini was really maturing, that I kind of got spoiled with the studio, and so I kind of just had to do some things on my own. I've noticed that across the board, both AI Studio and Gemini are getting better at memory, which is associated with gems and how that's working. Yes, sir?
My question for you, so I'm familiar with Teams and with Slack, where there's the concept of channels, and within channels you can have a chat to talk back and forth about maybe a project that you're working on, such as a migration.
Sure.
But does Google Workspace have the same functionality where there are channels that you can have a chat? And in other words, I'm just wondering at the use case, if you're doing a migration, would it not make sense to do it within a channel, and you could have a chat back and forth on that particular topic?
It depends. I mean, they're kind of weaving in and out all over the place, but just so you can see what it looks like, this is Spaces is the same as a channel as far as that's concerned. Slack does things that I've only been in one Slack space ever, and I was only in Teams for about 9 months, about 3 years ago. So to say exactly what the corollary is, my understanding is the way Google does it is a little bit more stripped down than most do it. And me and Josh were actually talking about it the other day, that we need to really leverage some of the tools that we're not taking advantage of at this point. So I don't really think I can give you a great answer to that, other than the equivalent is Spaces and then your direct messages. But yeah, what we use for, and I don't mind showing you guys this, but Compass Media is a client of ours, Townsley Dental, Innovate Real Estate under his wings, WS Design, Wolf Bay Lodge, both locations. We create spaces for our customers. And so we're actually getting spoiled to death, where it used to be where if you didn't email, you weren't getting help. And we really didn't take calls that much because we're just a small company and we just have to make that as efficiently as possibly can. We don't want a receptionist answering the phone. Customers don't want that either. And so what we've done is start putting people in chat spaces, and then we just take our entire company, dump them in there, and then take the key players, whoever that IT anchor is on that particular customer, and they're just loving life. And we love it too. Yes, sir.
Are you doing
Sorry.
this in lieu of like a project management solution as well? So there's no like ConnectWise or anything that would be a project management tool that you could
That's a
use? Or
great question and a very specific question as well. So, no, for our ticketing system, we use ConnectWise. But where we see that ConnectWise can be slow or to be, it's obviously robust in a lot of ways. That's beyond the scope of this, but it's diminished in other ways. And so what we're seeing is we get a lot of our daily churn done, and then we're kind of backfilling ConnectWise. So it's really just, are we staying accountable to the customer? Are we keeping those notes for the customer in that ecosystem? Yes, we are. But we're really doing a lot of the heavy lifting of the day in email and chat, either internally or with the customer, and then we're getting that information over for billing and such.
are you automating that right now, or is that something you're thinking about?
We're thinking about it. Yeah, me and the CTO just had a conversation at the beginning of the week about that. Yeah, that's high on our list to do.
So you're not using a AI receptionist, and you're not using any telephone, no?
Mm-mm. No, because we have very little. So as an IT company, it's a little unique. So I have a good mentor. He says all service companies are identical. There's no difference between me and a lawyer and a plumber and an electrician and anybody, a house cleaning service. It doesn't matter. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But what makes us a little bit unique is, generally speaking, if someone's having a problem with their computer systems or such, they're at a computer. They're integrated with their phone. And obviously, or let me say, what may not be obvious is we're not taking a lot of new calls. We're not getting a customer by way of an emergency. You're already in the customer when you have an emergency, or you're getting it to some other way. We just don't get phone calls. We've just designed the system, and most everyone is kind of accomplished, or is kind of lean that way. They just prefer to email and chat because they just know we're going to react faster. Where, I'll try to make that pull that a little bit even further. Is, well, if it's going to take them 15 minutes to email me back, I'm not going to email them. I'm going to call them. But they know if they email us, they're getting something back in 90 seconds. If they're chatting with us, they're getting something back in 20 seconds. And so we really kind of made it where it's just that quick. It's that dopamine drip. They like it. Josh, you have a question?
No, I was just going to add to that because in that time frame that we've had this conversation over the last probably 180 seconds, there was a client that just chatted in from their device, had an issue, and our technician solved it because they were able to get all of us in the chat group at that one time, and we were able to respond within 30 seconds. This allow you to upload files and pin them to the top and
Yep.
do all the stuff. It does everything Slack does.
I wouldn't say it does everything Slack does. The things that you just said it does do.
I mean, like when I onboard new people with Slack channels, I've got all my important documents that they've got to look at for procedures and all that good stuff. They stay there evergreen
Yep.
the entire time. Does this have the same functionality to do that, adding video to it and doing all that?
It absolutely does. Yeah. Yeah. Josh and I were actually discussing that for our new onboarding procedures. We're looking at putting those stakeholder documents, those procedural documents, and what's beneficial to us and what's kind of slowing us down a little bit is we want that, it needs to be facing both directions. I don't know if you do that if your client has access to that, but for us, the client would have access to those as well. And so we're just trying to identify what's the best cases where we can say, okay, here's all the stakeholder information, here's the vendor information, here's the procedural information, where we kind of have to make a decision. Are we going to go ahead and keep that in the customer folder in Google Drive private, or we're going to put that into a chat space with the customer? Because there's huge advantages of the customer having access to that information and more readily available for our junior techs. Great question. We are, what time is it over? 5:30? We're doing pretty good on time. All right, back to, let me draw us back. Y'all keep the questions coming. This is awesome. But let me draw us back to some regular procedures that we do. So I've kept this in my inbox on purpose. I don't know how everyone else does things, but I read a good book called Getting Things Done. And in Getting Things Done, you learn that everything is a list, which, come to find out, all pilots and doctors knew way before the other industries did. So I use my inbox as a list. And so what I will normally do, well, let me actually go back to hopefully make this as much sense as possible. So if I go to my calendar, y'all don't get freaked out on my calendar. Yeah, that's just me. So you will see that we have a recurring local IT stand-up meeting. So this happens every week. It's the same meet every single time. It never changes. And when we go into this meet, it's set to auto-record. We actually have domain-wide. All of our meetings are set to auto-record. And what that's going to do is dump into my drive. So it's not available to anyone else in my company because it's private to my drive. So anyone in my company that has any meet that they do, it's going to dump into my drive, which is the equivalent of OneDrive. It's not shared. And if you want the equivalent of SharePoint to Google shared drives, then it's going to look something like this. And so this is where all of the data lives that has permissions depending on what people's need to be in what folders are going to be. And so what I will do, that's just to give you kind of an idea of the ecosystem. So what I'll do is I'll say, all right, local stand-up meeting. In this particular case, I was at First Friday Forum at Lulu's this morning, and I was not able to be at the 8 o'clock stand-up meeting. I was having scrambled eggs and grits and something else. And what I do is I'm like, okay, well, if I want to read that, and then when I opened it, I scrolled down because these are set at 10-minute meetings. I was like, wait a minute, 7 pages is no 10-minute meeting. What happened here? So I went ahead and saved this for you, but what I'd normally do is I'd hit the organize folder because I want to get it out of my meeting so that it has the ability for all of my staff to get to it later on, or myself when I want to, and I'll explain something that I've done in the past that I do every once in a while. So I'll organize, and then I have starred because it's a regular recurring meeting, and I'll stand up, and then I'll just move it over there. And even though the video is not significantly important to me quite yet, I do anticipate that it'll be important in the future. And I just move it over there, and I drop it in there, and there's about 2 years worth of meetings that are sitting in that folder. And I can do things with AI with that. In this particular case, we'll get back to this later on, and I will show you the relevance of me clicking on that. Let me get some of these other things closed. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. All right, so now that that's sitting in Google Drive in a place that I can get to, let's go over to, because as I said, what we're going to do is let's walk through it again. We're going to go from Gmail and see what happens at the interface. Then I want to show you organization into Google Drive. Now I want to go over to Gemini and see what that connection gives for us. So if I just simply go to Gemini and I hit add, and I add from Drive, then my recent is the last thing that I touched. And I'll insert it. And now it's there for me to talk about. So I'm going to say, what are the issues with the M365 migration? Give me 3 bullets. Okay, that meeting was 47 minutes long. It's supposed to be a 10-minute meeting. Don't know what happened. We're about to find out because I heard through the grapevine that it was something about the M365 migration. If this has some customer-facing data, or too much customer-facing data, I'm going to close it real quick. And I don't know if y'all hit thinking, but I love to watch it think sometimes. So we're processing through on Microsoft, tenancy issues, tenants just going out of control. Okay, so we had some tenant naming conflicts, we had licensing support deadlocks, or some licensing deadlocks, and we had mail flow MX records unreliable. So let me get out of that so that I don't expose any data that's personal to my customer. The point there, because I had to get in and out of it pretty quick, the point there that I wanted you to see is that I can go over to Gemini and get even more robust information directly from my Google Drive. And that data didn't leave my ecosystem. I didn't have to bring it back to my ecosystem. I just stayed in my ecosystem. And what I can do, that I do on a regular basis, is I can just bring that over into the transcript. This is a pretty slick thing that I'm getting used to. But let's say we have that stand-up meeting. So here are the notes. So this is the Gemini notes that I could go also read this information, just what Gemini gave me on the fly. Here's the transcript data that I actually pulled that from, that I'm getting the information that I wanted, but I can also add another tab. And what I have started to do is to keep everything in one document so that I can have it better organized and I don't have things in dispersed places, is I'll just add another AI output. So I'll rename this the majority of the time to whatever AI output that I did, and then if we were able to do this in a more environment that I wasn't being disrespectful to my data, then I would just paste that right there. And then the majority of the time what I'm doing is whatever I recorded that from, whether I do the recording on the phone, whether I'm doing my Meet recording, or whether I get that off the Pixel recording that I recorded that, I'm just getting that data somewhere into the Google Drive ecosystem, and then I'm keeping it here, and then from there I'm just going to PDF that out and send it to the customer, or send it to the vendor, or send it to whoever. It's really helped me a lot on very complex issues. I've got a customer that's having a really unique issue with their point of sale in their back-end SQL database. They had pulled over some data from an old database, and it's from an old software. We're in a new generation of software, and they have the ability to convert that SQL data, but there's some incongruity in that data. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know SQL, but I can certainly get on the phone with my customer who understands what his data should look like. I can then go through and ask, and I usually use AI Studio a little bit more for this because it gets a little bit more programming language built into it, and I'll say, hey, you know, I'm certain everyone in this room is intelligent enough that you can ask AI very intelligently. You can prompt it in good ways. Let's say, you know, help me understand from the basis of this transcript what's going on with this so I can get it over to support. And support, man, I'm starting to get compliments on my support. They're just like, I don't know who wrote this, but man, we got right down to the nitty-gritty of the problem. All right. So the next thing I wanted to show, so that was, again, that was brief, and we can go back to Gemini. Let's do that. Let's go back to Gemini real quick, just because I sped through that a little bit fast. So Gemini, very similar to ChatGPT, and I don't think anyone's, or I don't know how many people are aware of gems, but you've got gems that are happening here, and so this particular gem that I've got, let me see if I can go in and edit it. So I'm in a BNI group, and my 10-minute presentation happened to be yesterday, past Thursday. And so what I wanted to do with Gemini here, that was pretty cool, is I took, and this resolution is a little weird. Let me get this dropped down. There we go. So what I did in this case, and if anybody's not familiar with gems, and again, I have to confess, I don't use them as much as I really need to. But what I did was I said, all right, in the instructions, I want you to use Local IT's website, asklocalit.com. I want you to use our Facebook because it has so many things posted on a lot of our, you know, wins and all that. I took our LinkedIn published material, and then I said, be humorous. And then we happen to be a EOS company. So I went through and grabbed my VTO and put that in. And a lot of other things, and so now I've built a gem that knows a lot more about local IT than, you know, other than me, maybe. And then I started asking. So what I did was I started asking it questions, so then I can go into this gem, and based on that gem, I can start asking it questions, and I'll just go ahead and do what I did. Create slide presentation based on local IT websites. And then we're not quite there yet, even though Google keeps saying at their IOs and such that we are there. It doesn't create slides. It's a lie. It won't do any of that. But it's getting close. You can constantly just using these things, you can see it getting better. And so without any constraints, you know, it's going through the thinking, then it's creating those slides. And I don't know if it was otherwise obvious, but I didn't create any of the words on the slide deck that I showed you. I did tidy them up a little bit, but all I did was say, over prompting and adding data, and just continuing to refine and put in what I wanted to do with this presentation, I just kept refining that data, and then I just asked my Gem to produce slide decks for me, and then I just cherry picked what I wanted, right? I just did that. So I did this with my BNI group the other day, and here's the title slide, and it gives me the information that I want. Let's look down through here. Yeah, so this looks good. Our foundation and core values, and then this is a copy and a paste over, and then just reading through everything, being diligent, as I assume everyone in the room is. You're very diligent about the output, making sure it's not hallucinating, it's not representing what you want, and those just get copy and pasted into a slide. So there's a little picture of what little bit of help a Gem in Gemini can get. I know ChatGPT has the equivalents of these things and the rest, but again, like I said, the point is to show you how these things work in this ecosystem, not to be comparative necessarily. Any questions? I'm going to go over to AI Studio. Yes, sir.
Just back to your original, I know that you mentioned that you make sure that people know that you're using AI or that you're integrating it into your business. I'm just curious what the apprehension is for disclosing that, or like what, maybe your ethical dilemma is there. I personally, I don't see an issue with it because I think it just streamlines what we're doing, and I think it's supposed to help us in our day-to-day, not necessarily create it, but at the same time, if we can integrate it in certain ways to make things a little bit easier or to help us speak maybe a little bit better with our end users, our clients, and our customers, I'm just curious what the disclosure.
That's a great question, and I was probably a little bit too broad in my saying of that, so let me be a little bit more refined in what I'm doing, and I seek questions and all that, and I think we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to navigate these waters and figure out what's best. So I was going to start someplace, but let me start in another place. I feel I get a sense of other people's apprehension, and I don't want to step on somebody else too hard. Now, as I said, when I turned on my recorder, I was like, hey, I'm going to turn on this recorder, and I'm going to set it right here. I'm not asking if you're okay with it. I just want to try to have other people's, I'm a very empathetic person, so kind of want to make sure that people are okay with it. And if I actually did this the other day where I had recorded it, it was gold. I had a one-to-one with someone, and I forgot to tell them I was recording. Well, now I'm sitting on this jewel of data that I've processed through AI. Can I not send it to him now because I didn't let him know? And so what I did in that case was, after I got it all put together in the way I wanted it, put it on the email, and then I just typed an email that said, hey, I apologize. I'd started recording. You were a little bit late to the meeting. I forgot to let you know I was recording. But it was such a great conversation. It was about an hour and a half conversation. It was such a great conversation. I didn't want you to miss out on that data. And so here it is, and he emailed back. It's like, that's fantastic. That's so cool. I've never had anybody do this before. And so it worked out in that particular case. But now, let me go to more specific of my question is, like, for example, when I'm in Gmail and I hit polish, I don't tell anybody I've used AI. That's like using spell check. Yeah. Yeah, I don't, thank you. I'm glad other people get it that way. When grammar started to come along, where we had spell check and grammar, that was all AI before AI was sexy. So when I'm using these large language models, when Gemini is doing, it really is making that more robust than it ever has before. It's the next evolution. It's not just spell check. It's not just grammar check, which I wasn't telling people I was using. It's now going beyond that. And so in general, so I try to just play it by ear. I would say 1 out of every 100 of those emails, I want to say, AI helped me with this. And a lot of times that's where the content is a little bit more robust. There's a little bit more complexity to it. That's one example where I'll say, and I'll try to be humorous about it or something, which is, let's be clear, AI helped me, do the heavy lifting here or something like that. And it'll usually be a note, like at the PS, and it'll usually be note, this was what was done here. Sometimes I'll do it if I think that, maybe there's more than one person on the email. Maybe the guy who's I'm really targeting to is on the email. I'm fine. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't care. But maybe there's a vendor that I don't really know their personality, and I don't know if they're kind of adversarial to me. And so I might do that in case I get called out in some way. So that's another kind of motivation. And then the other that I will do, and this is the height of it, and I hope everyone is doing this, is if I put together the content, because like I said, this is adding such a workload to me, but I'm hoping it'll pay off in the future, where I'm getting all this data, I process it through, and I'm taking this, I'll give you a perfect example. One of our customers is oak and stone. None of you say oak and stone. You all say oak and stone. Well, oak and stone is not anything. That doesn't exist in this world. On planet Earth, there's nothing that exists that says oak and stone. But AI will always transcribe that to something else. You can hear it. Just spell it out in your head. And so sometimes it'll help me correct it. Other times I have to take the diligence and, just like I said, change speaker 1 to Michael, change speaker 2 to Steve. I have to go change OAKEN, SON, whatever it does, and I say change that to oak and stone. If I don't go through that due diligence because I just don't have the time, or it's 14 pages of something, but I can kind of skim it and see that content is really valuable, then I'll attach it and I was like, here's the meeting notes. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to diving into this in our next meeting so that we can do this. And also let me note here that I did not review this. I did not have time to review it. I wanted to get it to you as quickly as possible. So this is, if there's hallucinations, if there's mistakes, if there's anything, I don't say all that, but I'll say, I would encourage everyone to do that, because this is what I think is giving the bad reputation to these college students and these high school students and these professionals that come in, or these young bucks that are coming up into the world, giving all of us a bad name for using AI, because they're saying, write my manager an email about this, and they don't write a single word. And so there's a very long-winded answer to the question. Did you have a question?
Yeah, if you don't mind, about the recording meetings. So I don't have many meetings, so like I'm not sure if I would need that per se. How long have you guys been recording meetings? About? You said a couple of years?
At least 3 years.
At least 3 years. Oh, cool. So do you find that obviously it's work, it's a ton of data, so you have it. Have the meetings changed in those 3 years?
Yes.
Like, do people listen as intently in the meeting?
I would say,
are there any issues with that, or like oh, this will all be taken care of. Someone's gonna send me an overview. Do I have to? I'm thinking of how I may operate.
Man, that's a fantastic question. That's a fantastic question. I'll give you at least 2 layers of feedback. One is, at least for me, and we're in a highly technical field, obviously, in IT, and we do highly complex things. We get more accurate. We pay more attention, because now it's not just, okay, well, I know what he's saying, or I see that on the screen. Now, and I'll coach I'll use that same user where we were dealing with that database issue, and he's clicking through on all these screens. Well, that's information I need to get over to support. That's information I need to record for my team. I might hand it over, because I'm not the smartest guy in my company. I hire people to be smarter than me. And so I'm like, look, I need to escalate this to Ben. So I want this to be highly accurate. I'm going to show you an example of this, and the next thing I want to show you is kind of an example of this. I was like, Nick, slow down, stop, go back. Tell me what you're clicking on. Okay, I click on customer, and then category, and then beer, and then IPA, and then it blows the hell up. Great, so now I've got that video recorded, now I've got it verbally recorded, and it just helps the AI be that much more robust. So ironic to your question is it's the reverse of that. Is we're actually being more accurate, we're spending more time being granular about what we're doing, because it's weird because...
It's because you know it's being recorded. You're like, hey,
correct.
Hey, go back, say that, give me more detail there, because you know you have a record of it.
Correct.
Like, that's cool, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then, yes?
Can I ask a reverse question to that? So like, were you also wondering like the customer side, like if the customers are getting lazy because he's sending like this post report?
Yeah, I think just all around. Because I'm in meetings all the time where there's recorders, but I'm just like, I'm not paying attention because I'm not using it. But now on this, yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I mean, I'll be hopefully playful, but I'm deadly serious about it. The customers are already lazy. I didn't need AI to make them lazy. That was already built in.
Is it helping your conversions because you are doing that follow-up, and that's an extra touch that I don't know many companies do at all?
I don't know. I don't know that I have enough data to answer that honestly yet. I want to say my gut says yes, but it's definitely helping me and Josh. And by the way, Josh Brown is my director of sales. He's fantastic. And I was actually going to use him to also answer that question. What's don't know. I shouldn't have even called on him. I don't know what I was thinking. It was stupid of me. But what we're finding is where you'll have those, and I don't know how much different industries you guys deal with, so just try to accommodate for whatever you do, because I want it to be generic enough that you get meaning out of it, not just my specific story. But I assume you understand that the sales guy is always blamed of overselling. You didn't give me enough information. You know, I'm getting a lot of head nods in here. Y'all know what I'm saying. But what we're doing is we are recording a lot of these conversations. We are getting it directly from the customer. We're getting exactly what they want, exactly what we sold. We're converting it into this, and sometimes that might be 5 different meetings, maybe 5 to 15 hours worth of information that we're dumping in there. And I'll spend a good deal of time piecing that together, and I'm like, okay, now let's do a handoff. This is post sales. We sold it. It's a deal. We're ordering it. Now let's do the sales handoff to implementation. So it's implementation operations. And what we're doing is we're shutting those guys up. Because like, oh, y'all don't ever give us the information. Well, we did now. And now what we're doing is we're reversing all that, and we're saying, so I guess that's what I was kind of trying to end out as your question is, are you getting better conversion rate? What we're getting is we're getting more of the staff is taking care of the customer better, even more so. But I don't know that they're feeling that yet.
Well, I could see it also benefiting the sales team as well, because now that customer can be held accountable to what they said.
Yes.
So you can verify their truth in what they're saying when you come back to speak to them. So I see a lot of value in that. Thanks for sharing.
Have you implemented this? Have you implemented a system where you're recording calls to quality control?
Not for quality control. Not for quality control yet. We don't really have that. So that example is not something that we necessarily ever deal with. Insofar as, I'm trying to think, Josh, do we have anything since your tenure?
Well, see, I use these recordings for any time a certain individual says, well, you didn't tell me that. So there it is.
So,
Right there in the transcript, you read to me, this is your response.
internal. Yeah,
and
and
stuff like that
well, and I
with
would.
customers, and then taking AI and looking at each conversation.
Yep.
And finding the point where the salesperson lost the customer or the
Sure.
customer lost the salesperson, however it goes, but and they've improved conversion rates
Yeah.
tremendously.
I think we might be either we're too small or we're too niche right now. Because when it's like I have a meeting on the books for next week that I had a customer give me some negative feedback. It wasn't negative feedback, it was something else. And what I'm going to tell her in that meeting is, I think you misunderstand when you say, and she was very abrupt and rude, I'm going to help her and clean it up a little bit here, is I don't understand this number. Now that was incredibly rude the way she said it, so when I sit down with her, I will very pleasantly say, is maybe you don't understand, we don't give quotes, we engineer solutions. And so that's a little bit different in what we do, is people don't negotiate our prices. We can change the scope, but we're not going to negotiate the price, because the price is what we say the price is. And if you don't like that price, you can go somewhere else. All right, so jumping over into great questions, great feedback, but not. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just think this is an interesting topic, that this issue, the legal aspects of recording. And I know, like Alabama, it's a prior recording state, but I do believe that it has various. So if you're with another state that's not, then there are various legal repercussions, especially as to evidence in court. So I think perhaps if we could like start to maybe have a legal discussion another day, it would be really interesting.
We need to, because I actually have questions about that. We deal with so many. I mean, we're basically in Florida, right?
Exactly.
Especially us. We're even closer to Florida than you are. Yeah, so we have a lot of customers over there, and it is it's a two-party state, and a two-party state in Florida. And I've had that question quite a bit. Now, the majority of the tools are alerting you, they're telling you, so as long as you're notified, you don't have to ask their permission, you just have to know that they're notified. But I was actually on a call before I got here. I actually took advantage of getting here early because I knew I was going to be on a call, and I jumped in it, and the source of that meeting was in Florida. And he had actually just been advised this past week, the CEO is who I was on the call with, that he had to start informing people and getting their consent.
Exactly.
Which I'm like, I don't know if I like that at all. But he's in Florida. But my question, I think you're asking it, or if you didn't, I want to explicitly say it is, I'm sitting in Alabama. Do I get to record anybody in Florida?
Yeah.
I'm not under the Florida law.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in my state.
Yeah, but if there's a legal case and it involves the other person you're recording, there could be, and also there's a difference between the civil and the legal aspects of it. And also another point is, from more my perspective, international. But I think it's what you do is very smart, like informing them that we
Yeah.
are recording you. That's really smart,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to that point, that's going to come to a head with the announcement that OpenAI is going to build a device. There's already been articles out there about now we've got wearables, always on, always connected. It came out when the Ray-Bans with cameras were embedded as well. As they're saying that it's going to force society to come up with regulations and rules around what does it mean to be recorded with an always-on device? Are there going to be non-recording areas? Like at the coffee shop, do you have any right to privacy? So this is going to be, to your point, it'll be a very interesting conversation that matures over the next months to years.
It's true. So I want to point out two things here, and I don't know how many AIs actually do what I'm about to show you. So this is, I hope, is very meaningful and important. So there's a couple things I want to point out. So this is AI Studio. This is what I wanted to emphasize as I've been going along, and it's Gemini. You see over here on the run settings, you've got Gemini 2.5 with preview 5.6, which is pretty damn current. And we're in Google AI Studio. We're in the chat expression of this, and what I've done is this training video was done as 48 minutes long. So this was 3CX, which is our VoIP platform that we use, training from local IT, and it was to the customer, which happens to be an AC company over in Pensacola. They knew we were recording. And I went ahead and uploaded this so I could get it, so I could get it queued up. What I want you to make sure you understand here is this token count. Now, I don't perfectly understand all the aspects of what all things do with tokens, but what I can tell you about AI Studio is 48 minutes is about the most you're going to get out of those tokens. In this case, what those tokens mean is a context window. It's as much space as this AI session is going to allow you to do that it's going to take on. So if you think of it as memory space, if you've got 4 gigs of memory and you put 4 gigs of something there, you're done. That's what this means in this token space. Just to be clear on that, if you go to start using it and you upload an hour and 30-minute video to do something with, and you're like, Michael, it just keeps failing. I don't know why it keeps failing. Well, keep an eye on that token space because it's just going to give you as much as it's going to give you. Now, I can open a new session, and that's going to go to 0, right? It's not against your daily use, because I know you ChatGPT guys out there, I hear that complaint all the time. I'm always running against my daily usage in some case. This is just per session. If I just hit chat again, I'm going to get a new session. All right, that being said, my prompt here is ridiculously short. Create training document to give to customer and local IT staff. The point here is this is not just the audio. So there's no transcript here. This is just pulling the audio, and it's multimodal. It's looking at the screenshots as well. And so I did a little digging into this, and it's fascinating the way Google tears this video apart and why it takes it a minute to process. So why I got this loaded up before I got here, because it's tearing that video apart into individual segments. It's then taking that transcript and it's lining it up, and then it's going to create this training document based on all those screenshots. So however much that is, 60 frames a second times, however many seconds 48 minutes is, and it's going to align that transcript with that video, and it should give me some magic here in just a moment. While it's doing that, there are other things you can use. Stream is super fun. We're not going to go over it, so while this is processing, I'm going to go over each one of these, and I'll just keep an eye on that. Stream, you can open up a window, you can open up stream, you can talk, or you can type. So I've done this before where I was like, okay, Google, can you look on my screen? I've got a spreadsheet open, and I don't understand how to make this formula do this output. And it'll say, oh, well, you could just use this formula if you want, and it'll type it on the screen, and it'll talk back to me. So that's one thing that Stream will do. Generate media will give you that video production. You can get to, real quick, you get to video production here. It gives you 8 seconds with no audio. And you can also, create pictures or other types of things. I will say, in my experience, ChatGPT is whooping Gemini's butt on image creation at this point. Now, on video creation, I don't understand how Google can be this good in this area and this sucky in another area, but it is definitely there. I hate when it does this. So this is not what exactly I wanted, but you'll get the idea. What I could go through, so, all right. So here's a training document based on, David with my company, our VoIP admin, local IT, and the customer. Here's the 3CX web client and app training guide. Here's the purpose. Here's the audience, the prerequisites, and then it's going to start going through all of the pieces. I don't even know where that came from. Probably, okay, probably what he had is he saw that in a screenshot from wherever that was downloaded, probably multi-language in there, and it grabbed that. Sometimes it'll do this where it's using block code sections, and it'll do that. What's that?
Can you enlarge that just a little bit?
Yeah. Is that any better?
Sure.
So what I can go through is say, don't give me this code-based output, give me just a bulleted output, and that'll fix that right up. I can just say redo that. But there it goes, and it's just going to give me page after page after page, and then all I'm going to do in this case is copy and paste it over into a Google Doc, and I'm ready to, have someone verify it, either myself or one of my guys on my team. I'm going to say, all right, put that in our training folder, and then along with the video, let's not lose that, but we now have this, and get it over to the customer. That looks really good. And between the upload time and the processing time and the copy and pasting, maybe 15 minutes grand total. So I don't know anyone else. Is anyone else doing multimodal in whatever you're using, where you can actually pull the video and actually have it analyze the video? Any other AI that's out there doing that?
We use Fathom.
And will it do that? Where it'll watch the video?
Monica.
Okay.
Monica should do that. I have that all my video summarized into. So
Is it?
I don't even watch them anymore.
But is it summarizing any part of the video or just the transcript? My question is, can it handle screenshots? So if I said, in this case, if I say in 3CX, click on this, and then I forget the next click, this will get that next click. It doesn't need the transcript. It's truly multimodal. It's taking that video, it's breaking it apart into JPEGs, it's putting it in a timeline, and it's analyzing every frame. I don't know anybody else who does this. So anyway, if nobody else knows, then that's what I want to make sure you're getting. If somebody else does it, that's great. Again, we're talking about just fundamental how to use these things and be more productive in business. All right, so that's AI Studio. Where was I? And okay, then we're going to do the last one. And you actually brought this up, and I was going to, and I think we've done this many times already, but Notebook LM is just a fascinating, I think I did.
Michael, can I just tell you a quick story about Notebook LM, about how I used it the other day?
Yes, please.
I'm on a board of a condominium association. The condo docs are 800 pages long. About all these rules, it's crazy. And I was able to use Notebook LM. I put the 800-page PDF file in there, and it output a interactive podcast with two people talking back and forth about the condo docs. Making it sound very interesting,
Can
like
you
they're just
interrupt
on
them and ask
listening
a
to a
question?
podcast. It was the craziest thing, and it was interactive also, so I could actually interject and ask questions of the podcasters about the condo docs, and give me answers back.
That's a great use case.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, who has not heard of Notebook LM? One, two, just two? Was there three? Not you, four. Okay, five. Okay, so the minority of the room has heard of Notebook LM. So let me give you an understanding of it first, and then I'll actually demonstrate what you're talking about, and then I have a question for you, which is where I want to take Notebook LM next for us. So what I did here was a local IT EOS leadership meeting. That's your entrepreneurial operating system. Like I was telling you, we're an EOS shop. This meeting was an hour and 20, 30 minutes long. And so what I can do, this is the source data, okay? So what Notebook LM is doing is it's putting on what I call a walled garden, or it's putting on the guardrails. You're not going outside of that data source. Now, we never said entrepreneurial operating system in this meeting, so it doesn't exist in this walled garden that I'm claiming. So I'm going to say, what does EOS stand for? And so you can chat with this as your source data. So similar to a gem, but it's doing things much different than that. And so,
References where in that document it is.
yeah, it's going to find it. Yeah, it doesn't hallucinate at all. That's interesting. So this is interesting. This is different than what I was expecting the output to be. So, however, the source does not explicitly state what the acronym EOS stands for, which I think if I pushed it a little bit more, I would be able to get it out of it. Because somehow the designers or the developers of Notebook LM, it's like they take the entire knowledge of the internet and whatever Gemini knows in its large language model, but it's somehow curating it in a very tightly used way. And so it's really not going outside of your source data. So that's what that does, and I'll dig in a little bit deeper on this so that everyone can understand it. But this is the output from this meeting. I say this if my mic wasn't muted.
Hey, Michael, you might have to unmute your mic.
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
That's why I keep you around. Oh God, what have I done? Oh, this is all going horribly wrong.
Somebody send in a help ticket.
Hey, let's be clear before anybody starts mocking me. I'm not AV. I'm IT. Oh, this is never going to work. Let's see. Press and hold. This is not this.
You press input.
There is no input button.
Look back.
Look for a box
Look
with
over
an
to the
arrow.
left where the
Next up is
hamburger
right
is.
there.
You go back up. Continue up.
Did you unplug it and then plug
Go
it
to
back
the
in?
left. Your other left.
When in doubt, restart.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my thought.
There we go.
Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in?
Oh, wait, did you just go to you're on the HDMI?
4 cents.
There you are.
Okay. We still don't know how to turn this volume up.
You need the volume?
Yeah. For
Yeah,
this.
so the volume should be, is it not there?
I pressed the button and it got out of control. Although, let me try this. I think now that I've done the mistake.
You have no. But it's saying it's still no. Okay, and I'm going to tell you, I have no idea. It's telling that, oh, are you muted? Hold on.
Here's what I can do.
Change it to your speakers?
Yeah.
Feel for the team's sense of humor, maybe a bit of...
All right. Adapt and overcome. Here we go. So this is the audio overview that we were talking about.
Let's dig into this. We've got a stack of notes here, some transcript bits too, from a pretty intense leadership meeting at a local IT company.
Right.
And our mission today really is to unpack all of this, pull out the key insights, and get a real sense of, how this place works, the challenges, the strategies, what makes them tick.
Yeah, and what's kind of striking is the sheer range of stuff in these notes you've got. I mean, it goes from really...
So I don't use the audio output too much. I've used it a couple of times to good effect. Like if I was really busy, I'll pull it out and I'll do it when I'm going down the road. Oh, and Notebook LM is an app now, which everyone in Reddit was saying, wow, this is useless. We don't need that. And haha, you were wrong, Reddit, once again. So I use it now a little bit more because it's a lot bit easier access on that app. But I send it to customers every once in a while and blown away. They really enjoy it, and I've got a lot of good feedback from that where people are enjoying it. So back to you, what I was wondering if you were doing already, and this is kind of a big plug, and me and Josh have talked about this just a little bit, is to take our larger projects, put all that source data in on our larger projects, and then share this out with our implementation team and said, okay, and what I'd like to do, Josh, introducing you to this idea right now for the first time, is what I'd like to do is take all that and say, all right, no one can ask us a question. They have to go ask the notebook. And if you don't have the answer in the notebook, let us know. And then we'll go get that information and we'll put it in the notebook. That way what I'm thinking about doing is just forcing implementers to not have anything more than one onboarding meeting. I'm fine with the onboarding meeting because we're going to take that content data and we're going to put it here. But what I want them to do is be able to live without communicating with sales again after that handoff meeting. What's that?
Sales likes. Yeah, sales likes.
Sales likes. But you said you were using Notebook LM. Have you thought about using it in that way at all?
most of the stuff I use Notebook LM for, honestly, is personal stuff. And a lot of it has to do with, there's so much information coming out about AI right now, there's no way. If everybody in this room took, you know, whatever they could do in a week, you still, at the end of the week, we'd all still be 52 weeks behind.
Yep.
In the cycle. So one of the things I do is I'll take, you know, the main articles I really want to read or listen to or whatever, and I'll listen to those or read those. The rest of them that I wanted to get to but didn't have time to do, I put it in here. And then I use the voice thing, and since I have a 30-minute drive to and from work, it's like a podcast. So I can just drive down the road and this thing just talks back and forth. And tells me everything that had, you know, in this article, and this article. And the cool thing is if you've got the pro version, the Google Workspace, like he does, then you've got 300 sources you can put into one notebook. So if you've got a podcast you really like to listen to, or you know, you've got a blog you really like to follow, but he's always writing 2,500 word blog articles 5 times a day, and with AI, you can't keep up with it. Just drop it into Notebook LM, create a podcast, and go. The other ways I've used it is some research books of it. When I go up, I've got a hunt camp and basically a deer farm. You know, I've uploaded Dr. Craig Harper's book into this thing, and when I'm out in the farm, I can take a picture with iNaturalist, and it'll tell me, you know, the plant doesn't look good or whatever, and I can then go into that book, go into my Notebook LM, type in, well, how do I fix this problem? And it'll come up with it. I mean, it's just personal uses that I've used Notebook LM. It's not business stuff.
Can you share that out? Like, if you were to create, and I don't know if this is where your brain's going, but like, for instance, for your business, I could see you creating IT workbooks for individual offices where they've got an eco space where they got to go through that first before they get a ticket submission to roll that to someone else.
Yeah.
Is that something where you could potentially just share out and
you can't
just
with,
kind of create that space?
So let me circle back around to what he was talking about, and by route of yours, which is the constraints of Gmail. So if you wanted to play around with this, please do. Go play around with Notebook LM, and gmail.com is completely free. My first question that I ask is, do we collaborate with your team on it? You cannot do anywhere other than in your Google Workspace. On top of that, you cannot share outside of your ecosystem.
Okay.
So what you could do, but you've made me think about it, is you could say, all right, then customer, would you like us to convert? So we put service accounts on all of our customers. So I have about 130 Google Workspace in my ecosystem or under my management. What I could, and I have service accounts on all of them. Those are free to my customers forever. I could turn those into a pay-for account, and then I could manage all of that data in here, and then I could do the same thing. So to go further than that, you can only share inside of your ecosystem, not outside, and it has to be Google Workspace pay for. So you have to get both criteria, but that does make me think you could do that, where you could say.
Thinking about the overhead that you can save, it's almost like an additional API that you're creating for these organizations that, again, takes off the bottleneck on their end and on yours.
Yeah, no, I agree. To go to what he was saying, just so you can see it visually, as you can see, this is one of my biggest ones that I've ever done, and this took a lot of effort to do, but this was our RMH as a Retail Management Hero, was our first migration, or was our first effort to do Retail Management Hero, and it was 11 locations. So for that to be our first one out of the gate, it was nearly overwhelming. It was about a 2.5 month deployment cycle that we went through. After the project was done, I took all of our chat records. I went all the way down to all the configuration files for our network, because we did everything from soup to nuts. It was 100%. We took over this company and all of their IT needs, not just their point of sale. And even though it says 132 documents, there's one document here that I know is over 200 pages long. Just one document out of those 132. So there's a lot of content that's in here, and so that's what kind of gave me the idea. If I go in here, again, 132 sources, and anything I'm asking against that is going to pull from those 132 sources. I've used this efficiently a couple of times where I'll have that someone would say like, hey, what version of RMH are you using, or what is this particular thing? And I know that information's there somewhere buried in my Google Drive, and so I'll just go ask that specific question, and I've gotten 100% out of 100 results on that so far, where I could quickly get to that information. Yes, sir.
Is there a point of diminishing return when it comes to number of sources, in your experience?
So someone, I don't know if Chris, if you explained it to me, or if it was someone else. So right now, the short answer is yes, but I don't understand why. So I know that some lecture that I heard somewhere says even if I put in one document, it's not going to read all that document. It's going to go through somehow the AI magic, and I don't know if it's RAG or if it's something else that they're doing, is just not indexing 100% of the data. And I've experienced that, but I don't know how that works yet. I don't know if it's going to get better. I don't know exactly how that works, but I would say it's even, your question is even worse, is if it's one document, it's going to have diminishing return by the way the AI works. So if it's 300 documents, it's just going to have the same amount to scale. I don't know, but I don't understand how it works. I mean, this is a black box.
It's a function of the algorithm for the learning language model.
Yeah.
How it indexes and basically reads it.
Yeah, I'm ignorant of that answer. So I just have to tell you what little bit have I experienced, and I've heard a lecture on it that tried to describe it. Yes, ma'am.
So in cases where you need to manually verify the data that this system is outputting, how granular can that get? Like you showed where it could point us to the document, but could it point you to the paragraph in that 200-page?
Yeah.
Point you right to it.
Yeah. So yeah, we go right here, and then yeah, it's going to take you right. So if I drill down on it, then it highlights exactly where that is. Yeah. And let me do another one that's a little bit different that you had made me think about. So if you're not familiar with the book, The Ancient City, I highly recommend it. It was written in 1870 something, 1873. And what I did with this was I asked it to make me, so we're a homeschooling family, and so I asked it to make me a curriculum based on that book. And so this is just the mind map, which I just love mind maps. I want to click on it so you can see that the mind maps are amazing. So that's one of the features of that. Actually, no. Let's see what I wanted. But what I did here was I said, create me a curriculum for my kids for 3 months. And it created that curriculum. And my idea was that we would read a chapter a week or a certain amount of page. I think I took the amount of pages and I said divide by whatever, and I said, okay, 6 pages a night, 10 pages a night, and then we would read it, and then I wanted to pull out. So I said, give me all the talking points. And in, I don't know what it took, 45 seconds, it created a 3-month curriculum based on that book. And that's actually what this is. So using it in business is stretching beyond what the original designers had. So the intent of this was actually for this to be your college material that you were getting from lectures and for your PDFs, and of your books now all come in that PDF format. There's some licensing that's involved with that. Put it here, and then this is your digital professor. And so you would ask the professor questions, and you would get that output. That's what this was designed to do when they originally did it. But everyone started adopting it so fast. And by the way, as I've mentioned a couple times about different things, this is in core. So that means this is not going away. This is if I go to the back end and I'm like, okay, show me core apps, Notebook LM shows up as a core app. All right, Notebook LM was kind of my finish, and we're pretty right on time. Any other final thoughts and questions?
Thought or idea about your, I'm still thinking about 3 years of meetings. That's like a ton of data that you have. You may have thought of this. I don't know if it'd be really cool to dump all of that into something and just talk. And
Yep.
Cool. And
So,
like, hey, any similarities of customers? Hey, just like it'd
so
be really interesting to see what you find out of all of that.
yeah, let me give you what I've done already on that, which is a shorter version than that. Say it was about a month ago, 2 months ago, I said, give me all of the stand-up meetings for the past year. And I just started to really go crazy. I was like, give me all of the potential follow-up sales calls. And then it gave me a list. Copy and paste, sent to Josh. Josh, go. Give me all the potential loose ends that weren't covered that may need follow-up ones. And I saw a list. I noticed some of them were there. Copy and paste, send it over to my sysadmin. I was like, go follow up on all of these and give me a report. So those are the kind of things that, yeah, we already are seeing. That so just having that historical data there and scrubbing it. I wish it was, you're kind of speaking into the future where it's getting there, but with those constraints that others asked about, is there diminishing return with the, it doesn't have all, because if it had all my calendar across my company, if it had all the emails, all the chat, all the customer data, then it would be more robust. But if I'm just getting this one little snapshot of data, there's built-in constraints to what that's doing right now.
Yeah, I wonder if it could pull out stuff that like you don't, almost like the, like do I even know what to ask? Almost like if all that data, like hey, what are some things you see that like I'm not even asking you, like hey, oh you gear towards this type of customer, like here's a problem you've been having. It'd just be interesting to see like what might come out of that.
I agree. I think there was a statement or something came off of this that I'll put something a little bit more on there. You're not saying this exactly, but one of the things that I've seen with other AI that Google doesn't do yet that I've seen is sentiment. So give me a sentiment of what's going on here. What does the trend seem to be? What does the customer seem to be? What are those higher problems that we get more complaints about? I totally agree.
That's like the creative aspect of it. I feel like it'd be good at that, like being creative with all that and like drawing some. Just I don't know. It'd just be interesting to see. I'd be interested.
One thing I've done in the past, if you've got that much data and it won't process that much data, is take it either year by year or month by month.
Sure.
And with the right prompts, you can get it to spit out information it needs for that month to compare to a previous period, a future period, however you want to word it. But if you get the prompt right, it'll spit out the data it needs, and then you take the response it gives you for each month, put that in together with everything else and say, okay, now tell me what my year-over-year return is, or what's not.
So just you made me think about something that I'd done. I don't know if y'all remember when I started this. I said, I even fall victim. I wanted to get my calendar data, which is always going to be an ICS file, which you see here, and I was like, okay, so Gemini, can you read an ICS file? I said, no, I can't do that. And I said, okay, well, do you think you can help me with a calendar if it's in a comma separated value file? And he said, sure, I can do that, no problem. And so I grabbed my calendar for this calendar year, and I said, export my calendar for this calendar year out of Google. And y'all remember seeing my calendar. If you need to be reminded of it, let me do it again, just to make sure you understand the impact here. Let me even be better about this. So just so you know, it's not a one-off. That's what my calendar looks like. So what I wanted to do was to do kind of what you're saying is, what are the corollaries? Where are you spending your time? And what I want to do is, where am I spending time that maybe I don't need to? Where's my blind spots? What's going on there? So I was like, well, let me get this into a comma separated value. Couldn't find a good way. And then I was like, okay, well, this is a super easy idea. Let me just go to a website, conversion thing. And I found one that's reputable I've used in the past. And that's when I hit that button. I was like, wait a minute. And so I'm like, well, let me flex a little bit. So we've had lessons here on vibe coding. We've had other coding examples. And I personally get kind of antagonistic on the whole vibe coding idea. I think the joke that was said at the beginning of it is where we're at right now is, y'all heard about the Domino's Pizza. And this is actually, it's a joke, but it actually is a real story. The Domino's Pizza driver who started vibe coding one weekend and put something up on the app stores and was making $30,000 a month in a couple of months. And then his site got hacked and he went broke and went back to Domino's Pizza because vibe coding is not where it needs to be. Now it's going to be there, but it's not where it needs to be. But I imagine that others in the room have done it. If you have not, then I would encourage this. So I said to Gemini Studio, who is very good at coding, I said, will you please create me a JavaScript-based with an HTML front end utility that will convert from ICS to comma separated value. Since I knew I was going to do that, I already had the file downloaded. It was 11 meg, which is massive for a text file. And so I said, build it. So I started my stopwatch when I did it from the time that I asked it to code, downloaded the code, went from text to HTML, opened it, put the file in, and output it. Took 7 minutes. Perfect. No errors. Ran on the first shot.
It's your tool.
What's that?
It's your tool.
It's my tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet. This is mine. So for this anti-vibe coder.
Which is good, because if you had to use somebody else's tool, then you would never know that they had all your info.
Correct.
Just
So another little plug, and again, that comes down to an ignorance of asking the right question, which you've said over and over. If you don't know how to ask AI the question, then you're not going to get the right answer. And so really the key to my vibe coding was, let me simplify it. A simple one-use utility. JavaScript's going to be probably the most robust code that AI can do right now, and a simple HTML front end. So instead of getting elaborate and getting all crazy, my brain just brought it down to simplicity and produced this. This is my first shot. I showed this to my CTO. I showed it to him. He goes, "That's really cool. Where'd you get that converter?" And I was like, "Yeah, I made it in less than 4 minutes, and then used it in less than 7 minutes." And he was blown away. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" He goes, "This is the future." So, all right. I think that's all I got. Unless you got any more questions.
Keep your computer plugged in for a second. I want to show, can you go to Hackathon? HATC.
I guess all right.
Yep, that's it. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is our very first hackathon. You can go and click that Participate Now button. It will give you all the requirements to be involved on a team, or be a sponsor, of course. We are needing some sponsors, so that would be nice. But you can go, and then if you click the menu there, it will give you all the prerequisites to our design. You can submit a challenge. So if there's a solution that you need built and you're a business owner and there's a solution that you want to automate, or someone else to automate, you can absolutely just click the submit a challenge and give us ideas on what to work on. And then we're going to take all the challenges that have been submitted, we're going to pare them down to 3, because we're doing 3 sectors. We're doing manufacturing,